Just months after the Star Wars announcement, an international crisis dramatized the sinister nature of what Reagan called the evil empire.
My fellow Americans, I'm coming before you tonight about the Korean airline massacre, the attack by the Soviet Union against 269 innocent men, women, and children aboard an unarmed Korean passenger plane.
In August 1983, Soviet air defenses shot down a commercial airliner that had drifted off course.
This was the Soviet Union against the world and the moral precepts which guide human relations among people everywhere.
It was a military blunder. Reagan asserted otherwise.
It was an act of barbarism, born of a society which wantonly disregards individual rights and the value of human life and seeks constantly to expand and dominate other nations.
As Reagan's rhetoric reached a fever pitch, Andropov became convinced that the United States was preparing for a surprise nuclear attack on the USSR. When Reagan learned this, he was astonished. Do you suppose they really believed that? I don't see how they could believe that, but it's something to think about. The superpowers managed to avoid nuclear Armageddon for nearly 4 decades, but on November 20th, 1983, millions of Americans endured the unthinkable. The TV movie The Day After was a fictionalized depiction of nuclear war. But for President Reagan, it was a sobering glimpse at where the world might be headed.
More than 20 years ago, President Kennedy defined an approach that is as valid today as when he announced it. So let us not be blind to our differences, he said, but let us also direct attention to our common interests and to the means by which those differences can be resolved.
Reagan decided he had pushed hard enough. It was time to try a new approach.
People don't make wars. People want to raise their children in a world without fear and without war. If the Soviet government wants peace, then there will be peace. Together, we can strengthen peace, reduce the level of arms, and know in doing so that we have helped fulfill the hopes and dreams of those we represent, and indeed of people everywhere. Let us begin now. Thank you.
President Reagan's about-face, from warmonger to peacemaker, coincided with the death of the third Soviet leader in as many years. Reagan joked, "How can I get anywhere with the Soviets if they keep dying on me?" At 54 years of age, the new communist in charge was in no immediate danger of dying. Mikhail Gorbachev was university-educated, reform-minded, with ideas and imagination. He seemed quite unlike the sinister, boorish, senile leaders who had preceded him. Gorbachev was determined to save the failing Soviet economic system and improve the lives of ordinary citizens without abandoning Marxism-Leninism. In November 1986, Gorbachev and Reagan met for the first time at a summit in Geneva, Switzerland. The mood was tense during official discussions. Gorbachev was ready to negotiate an arms reduction on condition that Reagan abandon Star Wars. The president wouldn't budge. But in private, the two leaders forged the beginnings of a personal relationship that would transcend ideology, geopolitical differences, and the Cold War itself. Geneva did not produce any arms limitation agreements, but it provided a historic breakthrough. Just 5 months later, an explosion ripped through reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Soviet Union. was an environmental catastrophe, the worst nuclear disaster in history. It exposed a Soviet system that was shot through with corruption and incompetence. Gorbachev vowed immediate and radical change. The Soviet leader introduced glasnost, a move away from government secrecy toward openness, and perestroika, a dramatic economic, political, and social restructuring of the Soviet Union itself. To pay for the reforms, Gorbachev knew he would have to abandon the arms race and seek an end to the Cold War. In December 1987, the seeds planted at Geneva a year earlier bore fruit. Reagan and Gorbachev signed a historic agreement to eliminate intermediate-range missiles in Europe. It was the first step on the road to dramatically reducing nuclear weapons stockpiles. Reagan and Gorbachev found common ground on the issue of nuclear abolition. In 1987, President Reagan traveled to West Germany to seek common ground on human rights. In front of the Berlin Wall, he made his appeal.
General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
For Ronald Reagan, the one-time Hollywood actor, it may have been his finest performance.